Bradley the Singing Chef coming to you with another wonderful recipe today. This is a recipe that has been taste tested by so many of my friends, especially my friends that I sing with at the Voices of Liberty at Epcot. This dish has made it to several birthday parties, etc. And so I hope that you will enjoy it as much as we have. Now, what I'm making today is my version of barbecue country style ribs. Now you may be used to baby back ribs that you find in a lot of restaurants, but these are actually country style ribs, and there's just more meat to them. It's from a little bit different place on the hog when it's butchered. And you can see they're pretty thick slices of meat. You can get these bone-in or boneless. I have gotten boneless today because that's what was at the supermarket. The other cool thing about these ribs is that it's a pretty inexpensive cut of pork. Like each of these packs were like between $3 and $5 depending on weight. Total, not per pound, total. So it's a pretty inexpensive dish, but my goodness, the flavor we are gonna create today, you're gonna want them all the time. So the first thing I'm gonna do is create a marinade, okay? There's gonna be two steps to this marinade, both a dry rub and a wet marinade. The first thing I'm gonna do is the marinade. This same marinade also will serve later on as we are grilling these ribs as a basting sauce to put on the grill. All right, so it's a little bit of story time. So when I was a kid, my parents and I would go camping. We had a pop-up camper, and there was another family, the Chambers, who also liked to go camping with us. They also had a pop-up camper. And I have so many great memories of what I thought was going into the great outdoors, into the wilderness, when in all actual fact we were driving maybe less than 5 miles to the KOA campground. But you know, when you're little, you think an adventure is an adventure, right? Well, our friend Bob Chambers was famous for grilling amazing country style ribs. And he had this special sauce recipe that was top secret. I mean, no one was allowed to have it, including me. So you're not gonna get that recipe today, but I've tried to find some things in the grocery store that combine together, at least remind me a little bit of the amazing flavor that Bob was able to get. And it's become the way that I make country style ribs all the time because it's close to what his recipe is, although his recipe, according to legend, is about 35 ingredients long. Mine is a whopping total of 3 because a lot of it is already pre-prepared in the grocery store. So here's my cheat version of a marinade and sauce for these ribs. The first product that I use is Lawry's makes a 30-minute marinade called Steak and Chop. Specifically, their Steak and Chop. There's quite a bit of garlic in this, and that's the big hit of flavor that I get from this particular piece of the marinade. So take a bottle, just open this one, and about 3/4 of the bottle. That is the majority of the marinade, is that particular bottled marinade. Then I take my favorite barbecue sauce, which is Sweet Baby Ray's Original. You may have your favorite, and that's perfectly fine. Feel free to use whatever you like or have on hand as far as barbecue sauce goes in. And then I just put about, I would say, 1/3 of a cup of the barbecue sauce in. And then here's my secret ingredient. So I have no idea if it's in Bob's recipe or not, but this is what goes into mine. It is an Asian condiment called Hoisin Sauce. There are lots of brands of Hoisin Sauce out there. It's a sweet stir fry and dipping sauce, an Asian condiment. That there are several brands out there. And I put in about 3 tablespoons of this sweet hoisin sauce. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. That is the marinade. All I do is stir those 3 things together. I can't believe I'm giving away this secret. Well, it's not nearly as secret as Bob's for sure. And that's it for the wet marinade. Okay, now for the dry rub on these ribs. I don't know if you guys were able to watch, but I hope you'll go back and watch my recipe for beer braised pulled pork. In that recipe, I also created my version of a dry rub that I use on lots of things. I use it on that pulled pork recipe. I use it on grilled chicken when I want to do barbecue grilled chicken. And I also use it as the dry rub for these country ribs. So that's what we're gonna do. It's the base of it anyway. So here I got my container of the dry rub that I made in that pulled pork recipe. Go back and look and you can see what's in this magic little dish, okay? And I'm gonna take 1/4 cup, 3/4 of a cup of that dry rub that we created. Now in that dry rub, there's a little bit of brown sugar, but for these ribs, in order to caramelize them the way I want to and to bring a little sweetness to them, I add actually more brown sugar to this dry rub for the pork. So in this dish, I have about, I would say, 1/2 cup of packed dark brown sugar. That goes into the bowl. And then you just got to get in there with your hands and mix in the brown sugar into the rest of the dry rub. Then just take all these ribs and literally massage that dry rub into them. I'm going to take just 4 at a time because that's what's on each of these containers. So I'm just going to do all of these ribs in this dry rub, get them nice and covered, shake off the excess. And once I get the ribs, these 5 or 6 of them anyway, into the dry rub, I'm going to put these into a Ziploc bag. And into the Ziploc bag, I'm going to pour the wet marinade over the ribs to let those sit overnight. So 1, 2. Now in that dry rub, there's quite a bit of kick. There's some crushed red pepper and some cayenne. And that against the sweetness of the wet marinade and the brown sugar that we added is just gonna make the best flavor ever. So I'm gonna take my wet marinade, put about maybe a little over 1/2 cup of the wet marinade into that Ziploc bag. Close up the bag, but get as much air out as you possibly can. And then all you're going to do is rub that marinade all over your ribs. This package of flavor sits in your refrigerator at least overnight. So this is step 1 to grilling your ribs for dinner the next day. All right, I'm going to continue putting these into dry rub and wet marinade and get them ready for my fridge to go to bed for the night. And I will see you the next day after I get them nice and grilled and ready for the eating. Hey y'all, it's Bradley the Singing Chef and we are back. So my barbecue country style ribs have been on the grill for about 20 minutes total. So what I chose to do is I did 8 minutes on one side, basted that neck, turned it over, basted that side for another 8 minutes, and then I spent the last 4 minutes just kind of checking what needed to get some grill marks and all that good stuff on the grill. So a total of 20 minutes on your grill, and these are good to go. And I have to give you just a close-up of this. Oh my goodness, like glistening with that sauce. It's gonna be so, so good. So of course, you know I've gotta have it right. So going in. Oh my goodness, the knife just slides right through that. So tender. Oh my gosh. Seriously, the heat of that dry rub, along with the brown sugar sweetness and the sweetness of that wet marinade, is perfectly balanced. Like, that heat and sweet thing, that is my jam. I hope you will try these country style ribs. It's a really inexpensive main dish for you to prepare for you and for your friends and family. I hope you will try this recipe. I think you're gonna love these country style ribs. Please like, share, and subscribe on YouTube to my channel, Bradley the Singing Chef, and I look forward to meeting you in the kitchen on another episode. Eat well, love always.